Black Banner of Anatolia, a chronicle of a forgotten revolt. In the later centuries of the Great Ottoman era, when the empire still appeared unshakable yet its foundations were already cracking under the weight of internal exhaustion, Anatolia lived a life of its own. Istanbul was distant, the Sultan even more so, and imperial law reached the mountains only in a distorted form, mixed with the greed of officials and the fear of ordinary people. After long wars in the east and west, the state treasury had been drained. The silver akçe lost its value, payments to the janissaries were delayed, sipahis lost their timars, and the burden of taxation was shifted onto the peasantry. In Anatolian villages, taxes were levied not only on land and harvests, but also on water, mills, livestock, and even firewood from the forests. Qadis often turned a blind eye to abuses, as they themselves depended on local governors and tax collectors. It was during this time that flight from the villages became more frequent. People fled into the mountains, joining scattered bands that Ottoman records referred to as rebellious elements, while the people themselves called them simply those who had nothing left to lose. These movements were not yet full uprisings, but they were no longer mere banditry. They were born of hunger, injustice, and the devaluation of human life. In the village of Karadag, among clay houses and sun-scorched fields, lived a potter. He was not wealthy, but he was no poorer than his neighbors. When one year the harvest failed and the taxes remained unchanged, he was unable to pay. Janissaries accompanying a tax collector seized him and led him toward the nearest town. He never reached the court. Such deaths did not provoke investigations, for in the eyes of the empire this was the loss of a unit, not of a man. His son, Ismail, was left alone. The death of his mother bound him not to the land, but to memory. He abandoned the village and set out for the mountains, where those whom the empire considered dangerous or unnecessary had long gathered. There were former janissaries dismissed without pay, sipahis stripped of their holdings, Sufi mystics whose sermons were deemed undesirable, and peasants fleeing tax collectors. Ismail did not call for the destruction of the empire. He did not speak of founding a new state. His words were simple, and therefore understood. He spoke of land worked by some but owned by others, of laws that punished the weak and protected the powerful, of faith used as a justification for cruelty. People listened not because he was charismatic, but because he voiced what many had long feared to say aloud. In time, a band formed around him. It had no uniform and knew little of military discipline, but it was united by a shared resentment toward injustice. When they decided to descend from the mountains, the question of a symbol arose. Thus appeared the Black Banner. It was sewn from the covering of an old mosque closed for lack of funds. It bore no inscription and no name, for Ismail believed that a name turned a cause into a struggle for power rather than for memory. The first town surrendered without resistance. Garrisons laid down their arms, having gone unpaid for months. Local officials fled, knowing the people would not defend them. Ismail forbade looting and executions, further defying expectations of rebellion. This frightened the authorities more than violence would have, for it showed that the movement was not mere revolt. News reached Istanbul. In the imperial council they debated whether this was another Anatolian uprising like the Salauli revolts, or something more dangerous. The Grand Vizier urged caution, knowing that outright suppression might ignite a fire across the province. A messenger was sent to Ismail with gifts, a title, and the Sultan's seal. He was offered a district and pardon for all who laid down their arms. Ismail refused. He said that land could not be given or bought, for it belonged neither to the Sultan nor to rebels, but to those who lived upon it. After this, the empire chose force. An army advanced and met the rebels on a salt-white plain where armies had perished before. The battle lasted all day and was bloody. The rebels fought with desperation, the imperial troops with discipline. Only by evening, after suffering heavy losses, did the Sultan's forces withdraw. This victory was dangerous. It gave the rebels hope while drawing the full attention of Istanbul. That night, betrayal accomplished what swords could not. Ali of Erzurum, one of Ismail's closest companions, believed the promises of power and killed him. Before his death, Ismail said that empires rarely fall to blows from without, but often to fear within. After his death, the movement quickly collapsed. The Black Banner vanished, and no one knew whether it had been burned or hidden in the mountains. Ali received his reward, but within a year he too was executed, for the empire does not trust those who betray once. The empire endured, yet in Anatolia the memory of the Black Banner remained. Old people said it was not a symbol of rebellion, but a reminder that no state can endure forever if it forgets those who feed it and defend it. And when the wind moves through the mountains, they say it is not a storm, but the voice of the land, which remembers more than any chronicle.